Hello, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. I hope everyone's doing well, and welcome to a DLC speculation. So, we are expecting a new downloadable content to drop for Warhammer 3 in the summer. So I know it's not a large time frame between the Chaos Dwarves and that DLC, and we're expecting a standard Lord versus Lord, but I just wanted to throw out an idea of what it could possibly be if they decided that it's going to be three lords and a legendary hero. So what we know, what we do know so far is that Norsca needs some kind of rework or glow up. They are definitely much stronger in Warhammer 3 than they were in Warhammer 2. That is for sure. And all they can really need is new units, new legendary lords, new lords, a glow up to the monster hunts as well as the God Allegiance system, and they would be great. So what else do we know is the High Elves. I think we'll be seeing a little bit of them. In the past, there was I don't know if it was a leak or a reveal that was too early, but we did know that the voice actor for Teclis did reveal that he was coming back and he would be playing the voice for Prince Arvel, the bearer of a powerful amulet of Sunfire. So that leads me to my speculation. I think these DLC would be amazing to have a seafaring DLC where we have representing Norsca, Gottrud Spume. He is very Nurgle aligned, but Norscan nonetheless. And we have Sea Lord Aslan. He will be representing the High Elves. We've seen quite a bit of attention on this fellow, as well as Yin Yin the Sea Dragon. We don't know much about her, but we do know she has a huge part in the Cathay Navy. And yeah, I think that it would be great to have the three of these going up against each other. So, starting with Norsca, who I believe is going to be the centerpiece of this DLC, they're definitely going to need a boost in their infantry units. So we have the Norscan Reavers. So I think these units will have stock and they'll make, the siege battles much more tactical, have an extra tactic to how they can be played, have them sneak over walls and take points, as well as shield maidens who are very important. I mean, Valkia the Bloody started her warrior career as a shield maiden in the wall. And then, of course, you're going to have the Norskin Huskarls. So these will be your new top of the line elite. Picture the champions, but with higher armor piercing as well as the guardian effect that would have them as bodyguards for your lords or your heroes. I think those would be extremely interesting. And of course, having got Spume as the legendary lord, I believe that he needs his Putrid Blight Kings. I marked them as an FLC because the Putrid Blight Kings definitely need to be in the Chaos Warrior roster as well as the Nurgle. They're very much needed there, and I don't want them to be like everywhere in Norsca. I really like Norsca being like the Viking theme and their own thing with a little splash of chaos here and there. Maybe you can get one unit playing as Wolfric via the God Allegiance system, but I want them to be mostly easier to get for Gottrud Spume because it's going to be part of his thing. Moving on to the monsters and beasts. So Pharaoh Bears, I mean, they're in the game. I definitely think they should be with Norsca. It just makes sense. So the Valkyries. This is going to be an interesting one. Originally, I thought about having a Valkyrie as like a hero of some sort, and then I started thinking, what if they were like it would fit the Norsca theme a lot better if there were like a bunch of them and they just were like these flying harpies with anti-large, like much stronger than harpies. Like these would give them like, that extra niche against dragons, and give them a little bit more flavor. I think it fits the Norsca theme a lot more than like this, angelic angel flying around. So that was my idea of how they could implement Valkyries into the Norscan roster. And then, of course, there's the Cursed Etin. So these guys are going to be these big boys. I think that they would have some bound spells attached to them. So maybe something like Spirit Leech or Flock of Doom or the Enfeebling Foe. And they would be bound spells. So you would need to cast them all out. And you can't cast them during when he's in melee battle. And you need to be in melee battle to recharge the bounce spells. So you'd be casting everything, running them in while the enemy is enfeebled, and waiting for them to recharge, then trying to get them out and cast again. That'd be kind of interesting, I guess. Um, Now moving on to the lords and heroes and legendary lords. So Norsca definitely needs a magical um, lord. So I'm thinking of the Vitki. They would have access to Lord of Death, Fire, Metal, Beast, and Shadow. And I think these guys would go from Warhorse to Chariot to Manticore. Now, I'm kind of curious about ice. So I think ice is really exclusive to Kislev. But what if these guys did have access to ice? And if they chose ice, because it's definitely by far the weakest lore out of those. But if they did choose ice, they would be eligible to be mounted on a frostworm. Now that would be pretty cool. Like give you a tough choice there. But yeah, that's definitely the lord I can see them having. And then for the heroes, I would like them to have a monster hunter. So this would give them campaign movement speed, campaign movement. I think it's very, very important that all factions have a hero that can give campaign movement, or unless they have some other feature that would do it, and replenishment. Those are the big two for me. So I think that Norsca needs somebody who can do that. So he would be anti-large, throwing the spear, and he could be mounted inevitably on an Ice Wolf chariot, and yeah, he would just be really, really, really helpful in that roster. So moving on to, of course, the legendary Lord Gotrut Spume. So he is definitely Nurgle aligned. I see him having shipbuilding. I see all three of them having shipbuilding, but uniquely, he would have something in his ship that allows him to maybe build the Putrid Blight Kings, because and he's going to have all kinds of things that buff them. I don't see him mounted. I see him on foot, but he's going to be very anti-infantry. He'll have, the seven. I think he has seven tentacles wailing around and killing things as well as that big axe. So he'll be like super anti-infantry. And yeah, those are some of the things I see for Norsca. Also, I do want to mention that I don't really want Gutroot Spume to have necessarily the ability to use Plague Cauldron. I think having, shipbuilding is enough. However, I do want him to have access to Plague. So I was thinking maybe he has a mechanic sort of like the Beastman's Dark Moon mechanic, where every certain amount of turns, it gives you an option. So like you can have a Plague that would affect your armies and beef them up. You could have a Plague that affects your buildings and helps you with growth or something like that. Or you could have a plague that goes on all of your enemies. And based on your god allegiance points, things get bigger. So the tier it is, the stronger your plagues would be. And that's kind of my idea of how I see his faction running. Now, moving on to our legendary hero, I've chosen Bjorn Bearstruck. Why I've chosen him? Well, first of all, he is part of the Dogs of War army list. However, he is a Norscan werebear with descendants of the Great Bear. So, we've had a legendary hero that buffs, a whole bunch of different units. We have one that's really, your place and fill, whether you need a shooter, a cavalry unit, a magical user. Now, I want this unit. I think this unit would be awesome to be like a single unit buffer. So, he was part of a unit called the Bearmen of Urslo, and I think that the he will be able to give them the standard, like a Marauder unit, the standard, and they would be joined at a hip. They would be tied. So if they're next to each other in the battlefield, the Marauder unit with the Bear Banner will get massive buffs, and his skill tree will be about buffing himself as well as them throughout. And I think that would be an awesome way to introduce him. He would have the Bear Fang Talisman, and I think he can also buff bear units if they decide to add it. I think having a werebear would be an awesome legendary hero. Now moving on to the High Elves. So the High Elves don't need much. I think that this DLC should be primarily focused on introducing things to Norsca, with Cathay secondary and then a splash of High Elves. So give the High Elves the Merworm, give them the Lothern Sky Cutter, both versions, the Bow and Spear and the Eagle Eye Bolt Thrower, and I think we're in a perfect place. I'm sure they're going to want to make reskins of some of the archer units, the elite ones like the Shadow Warriors for Aslan. But yeah, I really don't think much is needed. Make the Merworm awesome. He deserves it. Um, and yeah, I would also like to see them add one more hero. So, like I said before, I'm a big fan of campaign movement. I think that Warhammer 3 is a very, very, very big map, and this is almost needed. So I'd like to see them add a Sea Helm that would give the campaign movement. Sea Helm would also have a Sky Cutter mount at a certain level. They would have the spear and shield and bow hybrid, anti-large, and they would buff the Sea Guards. So Aslan will have access to shipbuilding, the Sky Cutter mount, and I feel like he would have some kind of item that would allow him to summon Merworm. So maybe only one summoning, maybe two. At a certain level, he might be able to do two, but yeah, he should have abilities that would buff the Merworms and the Sea Guards, and I think that would be an awesome way to introduce Aslan. So as far as Cathay, I'm at a loss. The sky's the limit for them. I'm very excited to see what kind of units they would add. The ones that I can see is adding more constructs. So I can see a dragon turtle that may have a mounted cannon, or maybe a bound spell, maybe something from the Lord of the Deep, who knows? And the stone lions, who would work kind of like flesh hounds of corn, but would be like bigger and less of them. So maybe a unit of two or three, and they would like really have huge impact and run wild. And then, of course, if they're going to decide to do more constructs, have something for Cathay that's like the Necrotect. So having a construct buffing hero that, again, gives replenishment and maybe has a mount. That would be interesting. And then as for Yin Yin, uh, definitely the shipbuilding. As I said, all three of them. This is a seafaring versus pack. Um, I'm thinking about what kind of magic they would have for her. Would they create something new, like a lure of water, or would they make a mixture, something between, the lure of the deep and yin? I'm kind of curious what kind of bonuses they would have. She's very much a mystery. Now, moving on to our legendary lord starting locations. So here's a map, obviously, of the Immortal Empires, because in the realm of chaos, I definitely see them needing to expand eastern and south. The reason behind it is Yin Yin will definitely need a port city, so I'm thinking in Immortal Empires, the port city of Lizu. I'm not sure what the kind of location they would have in the realm of chaos, but she would need a port city. In Immortal Empires, it works out because she's a little bit distant from Lokir Felhart. I'm sure they would, in Immortal Empires, they would be scrapping. There would be the early game fight. But yeah, and in the tower. The Eastern Colonies, I believe, is where Aslan would start in both Realm of Chaos and Immortal Empires. Great location for him, lots of choices, so they would need to expand their Realm of Chaos map a little bit further south. As for Gotrut, I think in the Realm of Chaos campaign, he would definitely start in a Longship Graveyard. As far as where he would start in Immortal Empires, it could be anywhere. He could be one of those factions that start on his boat and is about to invade somewhere in, Lustria or, the Southlands, or even the Southern Wastes. Make him start there. So there's another faction down there to bother both. Kairos and Oxyotl. But yeah, it could be anywhere there. So as far as why are they fighting? So the main theme I see here is going to be the Amulet of Sunfire. It makes sense, especially based on the techless voice actor thing. It would definitely play a piece of this prince being handed this powerful amulet and losing it at sea. And so these three characters all hear about it. So Aslan sent a letter being like, "Hey, you're the bravest sailor, or, we need you to go and collect this item. Here is the rough location." Same with Yin Yin. So Yin Yin is always in a never-ending war with the cults of Sinch. So maybe she's looking to put an end to it, and here's about an amulet that would you know kill her, burn her enemies, and she's out to get it to stop this never-ending war with the cults of Sinch. And she hears about it from a traveler, and then there's Gotrut Spume who gets a vision from Papa saying, "Hey, go get me this item." So he's on it. Say no more, kind of thing. Um, and then what would be interesting is there's a twist to this. You know, this would be something they've never done before, but led this into a second DLC. So let's say, all things are said and done, all these three factions go to war over the amulet, and, maybe the amulet breaks at the end, or maybe the amulet never was there. And we find out that Engram Van Hoosman was looking to weaken his enemies. So he set this all up. He sent a vision to Gotrut, and he sent the letter to Aslan to get all three of them to wound themselves so his cults could go to their locations and steal some data, which would then lead to um, another DLC, which would be Engram Monamin for the Norskins, which would flesh out the Vermeer roster, and Ostankia, which would bring Kislev a new legendary lord and more units. But this was highly unlikely. It was just something cool that I thought of that would make it interesting. I'm a big fan of Ingram. So yeah, I want to thank everybody who came and watched the video, and let me know in the comment section what you thought about this matchup, and do you think it's possible or a good idea to have these legendary lords and a hero? I know that with the Ingram edition and Yin Yin, it would definitely stall out the idea of having Sun Wukong versus Changeling. So, I'm on the fence about this, but I thought this idea would be cool. So let me know, and thank you very much for staying tuned. Have a great day.